welcome everyone to the 2021 World Congress on Information Technology, Smart Cities in the Future, ICT Solutions session. My name is Jim Poissant, and I have the privilege of serving as the Secretary General of the World Information Technology and Services Alliance, better known as WCIT. I will be moderating this important and timely session. I'd like to begin by setting the stage. While there is much hype and press dedicated to the topic of smart cities, there are many considerations that must be addressed before the term smart cities comes to mean that technology is truly transforming these cities so that they earn the title of being a smart city. Infrastructure, planning, cost, enabling policies, bureaucratic resistance, culture, political resistance, technology selection, rules and regulations are all a part of being called smart cities. So I'd like to mention a few of the objectives we have in this session. Number one is to understand the evolution and trends in the implementation of smart cities technologies. Number two, to gain some inside perspectives from individuals actually implementing the technology, enabling smart cities to become a reality. Number three, to discuss smart cities, public and private partnerships. Number four, to understand the opportunities and challenges and lessons learned while implementing the smart cities technologies. And lastly, but not least, is to review the issue of inclusion, consideration for individuals with disabilities as they are considered into smart city planning. I'd like to now turn to our distinguished panel. I'd like to ask each panel member to provide their backgrounds, their organizations they represent, and tell us how you relate to the smart cities subject. I'd like to begin with Commissioner Victor Calise, the New York City Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. Victor, please.
Thank you, Jim. It's great to be here. I am a white male with salt and pepper hair, slicked back, with glasses, wearing a gray suit jacket and a blue shirt. And I am the commissioner of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities in New York City. And our job is to make New York City the most accessible city in the world. And we do that through infrastructure, education, healthcare, employment of people with disabilities, and driving technology to make sure it's accessible for people with disabilities throughout our city. We're responsible for about 1 million people with disabilities and 9 million people with disabilities that come visit our city every year.
Okay, thank you, Victor, and welcome. Ms. Rababa Dola, County Manager, Director, Oracle Bangladesh, please.
Thank you. Thank you for having me for this panel discussion. I'm Rubaba Dola. At present, I'm the Country Managing Director of Oracle Bangladesh. As you may know, Oracle is one of the largest software companies in the world. We provide cloud technology, infrastructure, database services, and various applications to support enterprises across the world. We are a $40 billion company, and we have our offices in 175 countries. Prior to joining Oracle, I have been in the ICT sector for the last 23 years. 19 years with telecom sector, where I've actually witnessed the growth of mobile communication in Bangladesh. Now the penetration is more than 100%. I've also witnessed the growth of internet access and how we connected rural and urban Bangladesh. And after serving the telecom sector, I also founded a digital healthcare platform, especially focusing on connecting the rural citizen to specialized doctors in the cities through a cloud platform and video conferencing platform. So that's about it, about myself. My relevance to smart cities, of course, through Oracle, because as you know, Oracle has already deployed various solutions, whether those are AI-driven or IoT services or machine learning, and various analytical tools are also utilized. And of course, cloud computing is something that is key to bringing about changes in cities to make it smarter. And hence, that's where I come in, and I'll speak more about what we can do to make cities smarter. Thank you.
Thank you again, and welcome. Mr. Ashok Kumar from the Center Director, E-Government's Leadership Center, Institute of System Science for the National University of Singapore. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's a great pleasure to be a part of this distinguished panel. I've been a technology practitioner with industry experience over the last 4 decades, working in financial institution, manufacturing, and the government, both for the government sector, both as Chief Information Officer in the ministries in Singapore and as their technology partner as well. So as Jim mentioned, I head up this leadership center under which I very closely work with Singapore's Smart Nation and Digital Government Office, who are responsible for formulating Smart Nation initiatives for Singapore. And as you may know, Singapore is aspiring to be the world's first smart nation in the next couple of years. We started a journey way back. I'll talk about it more later. So in this role, I help assemble the best practices around the globe to build digital transformation leadership capabilities, policy considerations, and deep tech capabilities. And around the globe, I've had the privilege of working with 7,500 public service officers, many from Bangladesh as well, and from 134 nationalities. Thank you, Jim. Over to you.
Welcome, sir. Let's go to the Honorable Antwel Islam, the Mayor of North Dhaka City, sir. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. James, thank you very much. And the distinguished guest, ladies and gentlemen. I believe the cities of smartness is portrayed by the ease of usability of the city or the interaction with the city by its users or citizens. For us, I would think the journey has already begun. We have taken a number of initiatives, which I believe are already the baby step. Is there any other question?
No, sir, we'll be coming. I'm going to ask you a few questions about your city in a few minutes. So let's go to Alexei Paravkev from the CEO of Moscow Agency of Innovation. Please, sir.
Thank you, Jim. I'm very honored to be a part of this conference and this panel as well. I am in the field of innovation and city digitalization for more than 10 years already. And it's a long journey, actually. In Moscow Innovation Agency, we are in charge of digitalizing basically all main city industries: education, healthcare, transport, utilities, and so on and so forth. So we are taking a very active part in this digital transition. And for us, it's very important, for the Moscow city government, it's very important to assess not only the technological potentialities of new solutions, but also social, economical, environmental, and other very important points. And we are trying to build a very balanced technology and societal system in Moscow, so that every Moscow citizen could get most of this technology revolution that we are witnessing right now.
Okay. Well, we understand that you're on vacation, so we appreciate your coming in and joining us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to go back in the same order and ask some questions to get a sense of where we are in terms of the reality of smart cities. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest ranking, what do you think the present status of smart cities absorption is around the globe? So let's go back to Victor. And just tell, scale of 1 to 10, where are we in the evolution of smart cities?
I think we're somewhere around 3.
3, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot we have to institute and get right. And from a disability perspective, it certainly changes the paradigm.
All right. Thank you, sir. Rababa, where are we in the world here? What's the absorption?
A difficult question to answer, really. I mean, if I really look at the definition of smart city, we tend to assume that it's a single defined entity, something that you can pick up in whole and then put into action by deploying in cities. But that's not how it happens, right? Because it's a layered approach. So in some places, they have really advanced. In some places, they have not. In certain areas, we have really advanced. So if I were to just score it, I would say we are below 5. Somewhere between 3 to 5, if I take an average of all the
countries. 3 to 5, and it depends. Ashok, what's your ranking, please?
If it is, you're talking about general progress around the globe, I would say 4.5.
Okay.
There are cities and pockets of excellence around, which could be much higher. But since you asked the general progress, I would pitch it as 4.5.
Okay, so everybody's 5 or under. So, Mr. Mayor, what do you think? What's your ranking?
So you're muted.
Rubaba has mentioned quite nicely that, as you know, that Dhaka city, our population is 49,000 per square kilometer, the density. 49,000 per square kilometer. And due to the climate migration from all over the district, all are coming in the city. And there are 2 places to stay. One is the slum area, and another, they are doing their business in the footpath. And every day, minimum 12,000 to 15,000 people are coming from different part of the Bangladesh. So this is the reality. And based on that, being a mayor, first time we are trying to develop a smart city. I just want to give one example. Our citizen, normally, when there is any kind of problem, they don't know where they will go. But I introduced a apps called Shobar Dhaka, Inclusive Dhaka. They can give any kind of complaint, and we are going to remedy this kind of complaint within minimum 24 hours, and maximum depends what kind of complaint. So we believe that just journey began the start, but as Rubaba Dola nicely mentioned, 5, of course, 5 to below 5, but definitely our target, how quick from below to we can go the go daily basis, up and up. And we believe that the Bangladesh, and especially the Bangladesh, is a growing country, and as a growing city of Dhaka North, I believe that definitely I want to give a mark. Yes, of course, 5.
Excellent. Okay. So out of curiosity, how's your mass transit system coming in Dhaka? How's the rail coming?
Yeah, that's a very good question. As you know that Bangladesh, if you think about 10 years before Bangladesh and the Dhaka city, it is definitely much more changes. The mass transit, we are elevated expressway is going on. We have a bus rapid transit is going on. And very recently, I'm sitting the place where the Gulshan is a diplomatic zone. All the diplomatics are living surrounding my areas, all the embassies. So we are also going the metro underground train as well. So there's a metro rail, there's a underground train, and there's an elevated expressway. All are working. And top of that, we are going to take the discipline of all the buses that called bus route franchise. We are also going to be started. So these are quite a good steps we are taking. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Alexei, how will you rank the smart cities around the globe? What do you think? Where are we?
Well, but it's a really difficult question, and I totally agree with the previous speakers. It really depends how to define how to define smart city in terms of it's extremely uneven developed throughout the globe. Some places are top-notch smart city, maybe not even cities, but smart city districts, I would say. And some places are very underdeveloped. But generally speaking, I would even give 3 to 4 points, probably something like that. And I think that it's this unevenness would prevail for quite a long time. And it's gonna take a very, very long road to get to the point when we'll get the general platform where all cities will be interconnected with each other, and citizens wouldn't even notice that by traveling from one place to another, that they actually are at some other geographical areas.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing you say is everyone's kind of ranking our global situation as being 5 or under. That's the bad news. The good news is there's the technology's coming on strong, as you all know, and there's improvements every day. And hopefully with the pandemic subsiding, a lot more absorption will take place. Commissioner Kalise, what has New York City done to make it as accessible as a smart city, please?
Sure. We're tackling lots of different things. We're measuring our infrastructure, looking at all the curb cuts that are on the street and really using LiDAR technology to give us the dimensions of the run and rise and what we need to do to make them accessible. We're taking kiosks that are on the street, which we call Link NYC. When we drove full accessibility, things like Braille that are on the buttons, the right height for people with disabilities, talkback features on the screen, changing the color contrast on the screen, and then really driving a sign language. You can go on the streets of New York City and actually get American Sign Language on the streets. And then everywhere we can, we're looking at websites and technology and how it all feeds disability, and setting up disability labs in our train stations, in our subway stations, to really test things that may or may not work. And then some of that has been implemented on the streets of New York, like Navi Lens, which allows a person with a phone, with a visual disability and a phone, to pick up an accessible bus stop and direct them right to that bus stop. So those are some of the technology things that we're driving and continue to drive. But it's all about experimenting and laying out programs that, laying out multiple things that people can try and see what actually works, and then work to implement that. Of course, there's budget constraints that need to come with that, but this is the way to go, right? And testing, driving, integrating things every step of the way.
Thank you, Victor. So I think the kiosk is fascinating, and I'd like to make you an offer, if you would, is allow us to advertise that kiosk on the WCIT website. Let's do a special article on it, and please send that to us, and we'll send it to the panel. I'm sure that they'll find it fascinating and interesting in their implementation within their cities.
And one last thing on that too is we do have a data deficit for people with disabilities. So now we're able to pull some data from there, know how many people use those actual features, and then that's even more powerful because now we have the ability to measure what people are using. So I just want to put that out there. Sorry to interrupt there.
No, excellent, excellent. So please share that with us so we can share it with the world. Ms. Dalla, you're representing the private sector. We talked a lot about government, but of course, there's got to be a partnership between the private sector, the public sector, and of course, the community as a whole. So what, in your recommendation, what are the 3 to 5 top levers for successful deployments of the smart city solutions? Please share that with us from a private sector standpoint.
Sure, that's a very important and pertinent question. I think before I answer that, let me just define smart city as I see it, as we see it as a technology company. Smart city should have a goal to optimize city functions, and also improve or promote economic growth while improving the quality of life of the citizen by using smart technologies and data analysis, right? So the real value lies in how this technology is used rather than simply how much technology is available. So let's get that fact very clear. So it's not about, oh, I've installed so many cameras, I've done all these smart, I've deployed all the smart technologies. That doesn't mean that you are actually reaping the benefit of smart cities. Rather, the use of it, how you're getting the data out of all those sensors, all those artificial intelligence that you're utilizing in the cities is what really is most important. Now, there are three things that generally the municipal corporation governors or the city developers would look for. One is the design, the second is the social equity, and the third is the data-driven, smart facility management services for them, right? So when it comes to design, from a partner perspective, as a technology partner, we wouldn't call ourselves just a technology partner, but also a knowledge partner, because we have deployed smart city solutions across various states in US. And now we are working for some cities in Japan. We are working with various cities, even countries in Africa as well. And we have really learned through these kind of deployments. And hence this partnership really can help government to use the best cases from across the globe. At the same time, understand what kind of design is required so that it's all inclusive, it's barrier free, it's accessible and future proofed to respond to sudden disruptions, including something like the pandemic, right? The social equity part that I just mentioned, that means that you have an integrated platform that provides an outlet for feedback, right? So it's very important that both from citizens and via the collection of data through sensors and all that, you are able to collect as much data as possible. And that's where we come in, because our mission is to improve life, improve businesses by being able to unleash all the possibilities that there is with data. So that's what we do. The third thing that I said, again, data-driven smart facilities, is that we have to ensure that operations are manageable and sustainable. They should be resilient, and the technology should be underpinning each solution, right? So we have to bring in resiliency. We have to make sure that the government is agile, time to market or go to market, react to real-time data. Those are the aspects that we have to bring in so that we can really optimize city functions, right? And as a result of this, what will happen is it will bring in more efficiency. And of course, at the same time, we can have more predictive approach rather than reactive approach to various disruption that's happening across the world. If we talk about flood management, whether we talk about safe city, whether we talk about waste management, all these aspects will be brought under one purview. And hence, the partners play a very, very big role when it comes to such deployment.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, we appreciate your time. We know you're very, very busy with other meetings. So at what stage is North Dhaka, Dhaka North, and where are you in terms of your journey? Please explain your progress here. What's going on?
Well, the very important thing that the definition, Rubaba Dola nicely mentioned, the definition of the smart city. You are smart, I am smart, rather than how we will give the facilitate to our city dwellers. That is the how first, how adequate we can give them the service. That's a very important. I'm just giving an example that we in Dhaka city, we have around 84,000 square, the 84 kilometer, our city, square kilometer, 84 square kilometer, where we are living 15 million people. 15 million on 84 square kilometers. So it's a highly density. And now what we did it, after I elected, I saying, okay, we make a smart light. We have a light, which is a higher consumption of the electricity, which is the, of course, which is not a LED light. And there is some kind of lights I have seen that it is on the road either morning 10 o'clock or afternoon 4 o'clock. It was on. But how we can make a sustainable way, less electricity, less energy, and we can control it from our mobile now. That's a smart city concept. From bed or from anywhere in the world, I can see my city's no light is on, so we can save energy and we can save money. And the city dwellers, they are very happy with I change all the light step by step. So this kind of things has been taken very much, and I saying that after I change all the lights, my old light, when I see my new electricity bill, it is much more lesser. Number one, and is very much a smart concept. So this journey has become, and I believe that with this kind of solution will make the city dwellers happy. Number one. Number two, our bean. I have seen that lot of bean where the morning time the wastage are on the bean. So there is no device on the bean. So I am saying that fix the device on the bean. So the bean will give the message automatically from my mayor office. So which bean are overloaded, my car will go and immediately they will clean that bean. So this kind of concept with the artificial intelligence, we are doing this kind of concept. Number two. Number three, we have a huge canals. If we clean the canals and then next day also we need to clean again, because we need a huge the population. So we fix the camera on the canals. It is last 1 month back. So now, and I'm saying that if I see in this camera that anybody put their garbage in the canal, I am going to fine. So now, very nicely, I just got the report today. Nobody is throwing their anything on the canals. They are putting it in the separate place. So this kind of concept, because if I give a manpower, just count it how much manpower I needed, but I just fixed 10 cameras and it solve and purpose save hundreds manpower. So these kind of things, I believe that with this kind of begin for a smart city, and you just mentioned, Mr. James, that if the Victor from councillor from New York City, the best practice, how the other cities is doing the best practice, if you can share, then our city is, of course, that can learn the good practice and we can overcome and give a good comfort level to our city dwellers.
Excellent. The offer I've made to Commissioner in New York City is open to all of you. If is something that you would like us to publish or produce globally in terms of great examples, we'd be happy to do that. It only makes great sense. Thank you, sir. Ashok, the mayor has given us some great examples. Victor has given us some examples. Singapore, your goal is to be the top absorber, if you would, of smart cities technology. Can you give us some examples of what you're doing in Singapore, please?
Thank you, Jim. So one of the driving principles is technology should just be an enabler and it should recede into the background while the services to the citizen must be in the forefront. So that's one of the first principles. At the next level, we have outlined a detailed digital government plan or digital or smart nation plan, which is driven by two principles. And those two principles are, of course, digital first. But the more important and interesting one is empathy and citizen centricity. So a whole lot of our initiatives are kind of focused around these two principles. Just to give you an example, we started off, actually our journey for Smart Nation technically started off in 1990s, where at the turn of century, we wanted Singapore to be an intelligent island. And as to the definition of smart cities, we thought that is the idea of smart city. So we wired it up, waiting for killer applications to come on, right? But the next 2 decades have been a change in itself. The rapidity with which new things have come in, more importantly, driven by the Gen X and Gen Y population, who are much more sophisticated. So their demands are very high, right? Added to that, Victor may already know this, Singapore is one of the fastest aging societies in Asia. By 2030, 1 in 4, 25% will be above 65. By 2050, that's going to go up to 33%. So amidst all of these challenges, making sure we are not technology obsessed. A couple of examples in the interest of time are things like using those cameras to make sure if some person has a sudden fall on the street, to deploy the emergency vehicles quickly, right? So there are about 10,000 cameras, but then you deploy these techniques of artificial intelligence to pick up sudden movements, unusual movements, and make the place safe, and deploy and optimize your resources. Likewise, we are very focused on anticipatory services. What we mean by that is the citizen should not be going out reaching for those services. It should be prompted to them, whether it is prenatal checkups for women, postnatal, whether it's admission for school children, and so on and so forth, right? And the last one is really from the perspective of, while we graduated translating services into digital means, what we have managed to do in the last couple of years is to really translate it from the perspective of customer journey, right? So in order to complete a service, various touch points, which are then stitched together and presented to the citizen. So for those of you who are interested, can look up Life SG, which provides this citizen-centric services with empathy and integrates about 40 such services of customer journeys. And on the last point, in terms of disabilities, there's been a lot of focus in the last 10 years. We've made considerable progress. And one very quick example is when senior citizens are crossing the road, if you tap the senior citizen card on the green man post, you are given another few seconds to enable senior citizens to cross for their own safety as well as the safety of the drivers as well. So several of these initiatives which have been implemented. Right, so I'll stop there. Over to you, Jim.
Excellent. I want to share with you, a few years ago, WCIT made a very special award to a company in Hong Kong. You know, the idea of treating a person who is suddenly ill. And so the situation in Hong Kong is they have a system where if a person becomes ill, they have a monitor on them or something on their wrist or on their neck. And they press a button, and what I found fascinating is they took it a couple steps further than the ordinary "I need help." A voice comes onto the monitor, and it recognizes the woman and says, "Mrs. Jones, I understand you fell down. What's the matter? Your daughter is coming to the hospital. The ambulance is on the way. We have your records." And so what they claimed is saving, you know, thousands of lives by having those database of information behind them in treating that patient immediately when the incident occurred. So let's see.
Jim, just to add on to that very quickly, we also realized, given a problem statement, if it is not curated properly, the solutions can be totally different. If I give it to an engineer with exactly the same problem, the engineer devised a solution with a whole lot of buttons on a particular device.
Too complex. Yeah.
Too complex, right? And when these concepts of empathy and citizen-centric thinking came in, exactly, you just need a panic button.
Yeah.
Or better still, you just don't need to do anything. The system should pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
that is how the definition of smartness comes in, right?
Right.
Sorry to
Wonderful.
interrupt, Jim.
No,
Thanks.
that's fine. Thank you, sir. Alexei, as the CEO of the Moscow Agency for Innovation, how has the pandemic affected practical usage of smart technologies in your cities? And what is the interconnection between post-pandemic world and smart cities concept, please?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I guess that pandemic actually affected all the cities all around the world, and we could still feel it, all the drawbacks of this situation. And that's where actually technology comes forward and helps us to deal with these drawbacks. First of all, speaking about digitalization in Moscow, I just wanted to mention that this year, the spring, I guess, Moscow entered the top 10 most digital advanced cities striking against COVID, the pandemic. And that's the ranking which was introduced by Startup Link, the global agency which is in charge of assessing technologies and innovations throughout the world. So, for us, it was very important actually to help to implement new technologies which would assist us to deal and to tackle the pandemic conditions. First of all, it's a combination of smart cities and AI technologies. In healthcare, we introduced the complex technology solutions which help doctors or other medical specialists to identify whether this person has the higher potentiality to get virus or less potentiality. That's the first thing. And the second thing, to identify, judging on the type of the photographs of the lungs, to identify the potentiality of the COVID for him or for her. And that's the idea of the third opinion, which speeds up to a very great extent the work of the doctors, of the hospitals. And in case when there is a huge pressure on them, because they have to deal with a lot of patients at the same time, it really helps to improve their efficiency. And it's just a small example because the whole system helps to bring together the surveillance cameras, where people moved, what they did, whom they met, and then to get to know the other persons who were in connection with the people who got the virus, to let them know that they should check their health and they should actually get tested. So that's the first point, and it's very important. In more general sense, I would say that our pandemic situation have a very strong impact on the development of smart city technologies. For example, in Moscow, the online online trading grown in 4 times faster than it was before. And people who didn't have any smartphones or never have a chance to use any applications started to do that because they were forced to adopt to this new environment and to these new conditions. I think that actually the whole situation gives us a hope that through these digital technologies, we would have a chance somehow to mitigate the bad outcomes of our current positions in virus and post-pandemic world.
Okay. Alex, thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, again, respecting your time, and we know you're busy. Your final question to you, sir, is the future. What's the future of smart cities in Bangladesh? And I would imagine that same advice or same crystal ball would be globally. But what's the future of smart cities, sir?
Thank you very much. Because as I mentioned to you, that the light, this is one of example, and especially in the pandemic time, the revenue automation is still our city dwellers, they're coming to our office and different offices and they pay their taxes, holding taxes. I said, no, it cannot be like this way. We started a case basis and it is a phenomenal demand, huge demand that everybody wants to do this kind of revenue automations. And my target that within next 2 years, whole Dhaka North City Corporation, all the city dwellers, they can pay their tax, holding tax, trade license, everything on the automation. That's my future plan. And based on that, we are going on. So is any kind of best practice, how other cities, they are doing their taxation? Of course, I have, my team has talked with the different softwares companies and different countries as well. Especially, I have talked with the New York City, those who make the design for the taxation. He was in Bangladesh and he gave a presentation. So I took a presentation from Australia. Then I took a presentation from the New York City, and of course, another 2 cities. But I feel that in New York cities, I like how they make their revenue automation. So I believe that this is going to be introduced. And also, as you know, that in our city, there is a huge rickshaw pool. I don't know, do you know the rickshaw? The 3-wheel, is it by the human being? They're doing the rickshaw and it's very popular nowadays. And those are doing the rickshaw. Who is the guy? They are for the climate migration. So we cannot say no to them and we cannot say that your rickshaw is abandoned. So we are going to give a rickshaw license digitally. So when we'll give the rickshaw license digitally, then we can save rickshaw for our citizen. And of course, the rickshaw license and other thing will be monitored like a driving license. How we monitor the driving license. So we want to give them the huge license to them, but it's completely with their tags, QR code or whatever it is. We are going to give the license to them. This is number 1. And of course, we are also doing the smart holding tax. Like there is a signboard, huge signboard or huge houses, but there is no system, automation. No, these houses are already been paid their holding tax or blah, 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 blah. No, we don't have that kind of system. Still, we are doing the very old system. So that has already been introduced, the new cities, how they are doing the smart holding tax. And also the environmental, the measures, the lots of in the light post, we are doing the huge pollution, environment pollution from where it is. Either it is from industry or it is from automobiles or it's from others. So we can know this kind of indicator. from this kind of sensors. We are going to introduce already around, well, quite a lot, more than 100 sensors has already been set up in the city, which
Okay.
never ever it was, but now we are doing it. And of course, I mentioned is the artificial sensors also. And we believe that if we can do this kind of revenue automations, the automatic trade license that we are doing as a smart city, and top of that, and top of that, this is a new innovation. What I did it because we have and now you know that after 3 days there is a Glasgow, there is a COP26 meeting going on for save our city, save our earth. So being a COP C40 members, I am also going to Glasgow, and my thing is that when we are going to give a one citizen, a newborn baby, a birth certificate, we are also giving a sapling to them. So one tree, one birth certificate. So when the tree will grow up, the kids will grow up, so he can or she can do his own oxygen from his own tree. So this kind of new sapling concept I'm introduced. And number two, we have a huge rooftop in our city. So if you the nice rooftop garden, they will going to get 10% rebate from the holding tax. So this kind of new concept I'm doing it, and also as our the water level is going down and down and down day by day. So if any guys have do this kind of green building, the rainwater harvesting or green building, of course, we are giving them the 10% rebate for our future generation. So this kind of new innovative ideas are going to take it, and is most welcome to my fellow colleagues and the others representative. If any kind of new things, please let's share. Not my city, globally we can save this earth. That's my request to all of you, and thank you very much.
Okay, very exciting, sir.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Victor, what would be your advice to smart city planners to factor in the population of the disabilities? What would you recommend that they think about when they plan those smart cities for the disability community?
Number one is make sure that people with disabilities are involved in the process.
Right.
That's important. Hire people with disabilities as consultants like you do other consultants. Hire people with disabilities to run programs, because people with disabilities could think not just on a disability perspective, but on other perspectives as well. And the diversification. If you're not including people with disabilities in your diversity, equity, inclusion, you're not doing diversity, equity, inclusion right. And if you're not including people with disabilities in smart cities, your cities are not smart. So making sure that people are represented on every level of that, and that will change the perspective on everything.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think unless you involve the user in developing a solution, why are you doing that? Because I think in our business, in our engineering business, we tend to think we're thinking myopic in terms of what we're creating. We're not considering this community as part of the solution. And as the result of that is, in our business, we have to go back and retrofit what we created 10 years ago instead of planning it to begin with. So
yeah, and I think there's a good point, right? Let's think about this. The reason how many people turn on their captionings when they watch television right now? Majority of people do, right? That was made for people with disabilities. When you use talk to text, that was made for people with disabilities. When you take your iPhone or your phone and you expand the text, right, to make it bigger so you can read things because your eyesight isn't as good as it used to be. That was made for people with disabilities. So many things that were made for people with disabilities that actually transcend through everything that we do. So, the return on disability is actually a return on investment.
all right. Thank you, sir. So as we're winding up our session, and I want to thank everyone. This has been extremely enlightening for me, and I'm sure it will be for the audience. I'd like to go around each person and if any final comments that you'd like to make to the audience about smart cities or recommendations or anything like that, and that would be much appreciated. So let's start with Ms. Dalla. What do you think? Any recommendations for the governments, for industry? What are you thinking?
Absolutely. I do have a few recommendations.
Okay.
As cities begin this journey, they need to really address how best to incorporate their existing physical infrastructure and digital investment. Because each city, even within a country, they differ in terms of their infrastructure, their framework, their history, their basic needs, right? So it's very important that we address that aspect of it. And Oracle has been helping the public sector in Bangladesh to better manage these kind of problems that we face, so that we can leverage data to engage citizens and modernize outdated infrastructure. Another thing that I would like to recommend is that cities of the future need impactful long-term investment along with the right expertise, right? So superficial short-term fixes will no longer suffice. So that's something that we really need to keep in mind. And I'm really happy to read one of the articles, a recent report that was probably published by EUI unit. They said that out of the top 15 countries in the world, Bangladesh is also one of the countries who have already made a plan for smart city transformation and also a 5-year plan. And the main focus being, of course, smart city, utilizing data, and also cybersecurity. So these things are very important. And when it comes to data, security is a very important aspect. And that is also something that I would recommend to really look into, because it requires a deeper, broader approach to technology, one that will fuel innovation and provide scalability to address the future demands along with the security. So that's what I would say.
Excellent. Ashok, what do you think? What's your recommendation, sir?
Right. I would say top three on my mind is, first is to change the mindset and look at things differently. As an example, when hospitals are crowded, rather than building more hospitals, take a step back and look at how do you move from curing to prevention, right? So what are the incentives? What are the nudges that you need to provide? And as another example of this mindship change is a quote from Mayor of Bogota, who says, a developed country is not a place where poor people have cars. Rather, it is where the rich people use public transportation.
Okay.
All right. So if you can change your mindset, all players, all stakeholders, whether it's government, citizens, private sector, everybody has a role to play. I mean, this concept will not work if the government doesn't provide not only the basic infrastructure, most important, the last mile connectivity. You can have beautiful infrastructure, but the last 2 miles, if I still have to struggle, I might as well drive, all right? The second thing I would say of my three things is the leadership commitment and its organizational support. So for Singapore, we experimented, I think the way I look at it, this pursuit of excellence does not have any finish line. It's a constant, the finish line keeps moving. So therefore, the ability to reconfigure yourself, whether it's policy, whether it is organizational support, and I mentioned Smart Nation Office, we went through 4 different configurations in a span of 2 years. Now people looked at it, are you sure or not? So we said, no, we are experimenting, all right? The last thing, while we have this great dividends out of technology, let us not forget, let's pay attention to its governance in terms of privacy, confidentiality, and more as AI kicks in. Singapore is very concerned and focusing a lot on ethics part of it. So AI and ethics is becoming a top priority for us. So okay. I will leave it at that. Thank you.
We have a lot to learn from you, Ashok. So I'm sure that the other members, as well as the audience, will be getting in touch with you to learn more. Alexei, what are your recommendations, please?
Well, I would be very short. I think there are two very important points that should be taken into consideration. The first one is the attitude, the relationship of the citizens towards the new technologies. And it's quite ambivalent. So it means that not everybody supports the implementation or introduction of new technologies in the cities. Some people do not understand why they need them. Some people are against their implementation. And normally, when we speak about smart city technologies, we think that it have this general support of the public, which is not true. Mm-hmm. And it's very important to keep in mind that we need to communicate, to explain, and to deliver the picture why it is important and what kind of achievement the implementation of these technologies could give to all the citizens, no matter if it's elder people or people with disabilities or, I don't know, young adults and so on and so forth. That's the first point. And the second point, I think it's very important to engage the local tech community in developing the solutions for the city or for metropolitan area. Because, of course, we've got big corporations, and those corporations try to develop and not only try, but actually develops a lot of universal solutions which could be applicable to basically every type of the city. But at the same time, it's very important to rely on the creativity of your own tech community and tech environment, startup environment, because this gives the additional, so to say, the additional feeling that the technologies that were implemented in your city are created partially or totally by talented people of your city. And this feeling of proudness is a very important feeling as well. So that's, I think, 2 points.
So, Alexei, you would not be surprised to hear that the literature on transformation, the literature that's coming out, says that the number one reason why transformation is not occurring is due to resistance to change. So I think you hit something right on the head there. So, Victor, what's your recommendations, please?
Well, thinking about everything, it's collaboration, right? The way that we're collaborating with other people. I think collaboration is big, learning what other cities are doing and being able to drive that. I think that's very important. On the disability side, again, hiring people with disabilities. And I also think it's important for people to think about what their request for proposal process look like, especially in the government side. When you're putting things out, make sure you're prescriptive in what you're saying to add technology so it's inclusive of everyone. And you do that and you include disability, you make better systems. And I think that's just the way to go.
Excellent. So I understand that Mr. Mayor had to leave for a meeting, and I think we've about maxed out our time. I want to thank all of you sincerely for your outstanding contribution to this session, and I wish you well, and please remain safe. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.